Good morning. We're going to continue the conversation right now that we've been having all week about staffing levels facing law enforcement agencies in our state. This impacts not only public safety, but the safety of officers as well. We saw that when Pierce County Deputy Daniel McCartney was killed responding to a home invasion last month. Today, his colleagues continue to patrol in the same small numbers they did before he died, and it means that every single day, life-saving backup for those deputies can be miles away. And this is it's not only a Pierce County problem. Joining us this morning is Sue Rahr, Executive Director of the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission, also the former King County Sheriff, the perfect person to be talking about that this morning. Why are we seeing this? Why are we seeing law enforcement agencies across our state so short-staffed, I mean, dramatically understaffed?
Well, there's two things at play right now. We are still in recovery mode after the recession, so a lot of agencies that held vacancies to save money are trying to fill those vacancies. We also have a large number of officers in baby boomers that are retiring. So we have two major drivers that are causing vacancies to happen. So that's one of the problems. The other problem is we have a huge queue. We have a waiting list for people to get into the academy. Even though agencies really struggle to find enough qualified candidates, once they do, they have to wait about 6 months to get their recruit into the academy to be trained.
We need to talk about the reason for this, because you cleared up a misperception I had when we were chatting in the green room. I thought that maybe we just didn't have enough people who wanted to be law enforcement officers. You said that's not the case. Tacoma, for instance, has funding for more officers, but they haven't been able to fill those positions. You're saying that this has to do with funding at the state level, that if you guys had more money, you would be able to get these officers through the academy quicker and to fill these ranks that are so short across Washington.
That's correct.
So explain to me what the deal is. What do we need to tell the state legislature this morning?
Well, what we need, the state is obligated by law to pay for the training of police officers. The local jurisdictions are required to pay 25%, so the state pays 75% of the cost. The state every year votes on a budget, and because we can't tell them with certainty 3 years ahead of time during the budget process how many recruits we're going to have, we estimate. And for the last 5 years, we have given our estimate, but we've been funded at a lower level. And so what we need in just plain mathematical terms, I need to do 18 classes of 30 recruits every year to keep up with the flow of recruits coming in. We're currently funded to teach 16 classes a year. That doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it's a 5-month academy, and there's no other way for an officer to get trained before they get out on the street.
So what's stopping our state from funding you at a level that is going to get these law enforcement agencies to where they need to be, that's going to improve officer safety, that's going to improve the safety of the public and response times? What in the world could be stopping the state from funding you at a level that is needed?
McClary
Education
is what I'm told when I meet with legislators. And I know they have many competing needs, but I'm hoping that they will listen to the public safety need, that the priority of getting police officers trained needs to be high because it is a public safety risk, and near and dear to my heart, it's an officer safety risk when there's not enough officers out there to provide backup.
Can you ballpark what that cost would be to provide just 2 additional classes per year?
$750,000.
Per year is what you would be asking from our state legislature. You know, sometimes when it takes a little bit of pressure or something tragic to happen, and sadly in this case, I know we went out with the Mountain Detachment in Pierce County, and we had the death of Deputy Daniel McCartney, which has shined a glaring spotlight on this issue and on the impacts of this issue. And I think we have some video here of a ride-along we did with his detachment where we were waiting 30 minutes for backup for a domestic violence call, where they told us that they couldn't even get to some property crime calls or burglary calls because of how short-staffed they are. How much of a reality is that for the agencies you work with, which I think is all of them, right?
About 300.
How much of a reality is this? Just is that problem that bad in Pierce County, or is that what other agencies are seeing as well?
That is a perennial problem across the state. It's been a problem in my experience for the last 40 years. When I worked patrol back in the late 70s, it was not uncommon to have a 30 or 45-minute wait for a backup. It's just a little bit, it's sad that here we are 40 years later and we still have the same challenges of getting officers back up. And it puts the officers in a terrible bind because on the one hand, they know somebody needs help. On the other hand, they're trained, wait for your backup. I'll be honest with you, most officers don't wait for a backup because they are dedicated to saving and protecting citizens. And so they will disregard their own safety so that they can protect a citizen. And unfortunately, it sometimes has tragic consequences.
So make your pitch right now to our state lawmakers in the Senate, in the House, for what this really means and the impact this is really having on our communities, for them not to fund you to the level that you need them to fund you.
So the reality is, it is a very competitive field for agencies to hire new recruits. So once they identify somebody who wants to come to their agency, they need to hire them immediately and pay them for 6 months while they wait to get into the academy.
Pay them 6 months to not really do anything?
To not do police work. And so that's in the ballpark of $30,000 that local police agencies are spending just waiting for their turn to get into the academy. When you look at a large agency like Pierce County Sheriff's Office, that money, when you've got 4 or 5 recruits in queue, that's a lot of money that could be spent in a better way. My wish is that the state funding would help us get rid of the backlog so at least the agencies can each save that money and get officers on the street more quickly.
So get people into those positions. Sue Rahr, we appreciate your time and your insight this morning. We'll be tracking this. And based on our conversation, I know there's a couple lawmakers who perhaps we'll have on next week to ask them what they're doing about this issue. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Guys, back to you.